Every year, FIFPRO will announce its World 11. The 2023 team was announced on the 15th of January 2024. The World 11 is voted on by the players. It is the ultimate Players' Player Award. Players select the 3 best players in each position. FIFPRO typically receive 25,000 votes per year. The players who receive the most votes will make up the World 11. Of all the players voted for, this was the final 23-man squad for the 2023 award. And this is the final team, the 11 players who make up the World 11. FIFPRO even went with a surprise 3-3-4 formation to accommodate certain players. But this got me thinking, if this is the best team to come out of 2023, what would happen if they played in the Premier League? Let's find out. Here we go then, we have loaded up FM24 and we are at the start of the very first campaign in the Premier League for the FIFPRO 11. Now, to get the FIFPRO 11 into the game, unfortunately I have had to sacrifice Luton Town, and that means we have removed all of their players and in come the FIFPRO 11. So if you're a Luton Town fan, I apologise. Your actual squad's not going to feature in the game, but the FIFPRO 11 are going to carry your club badge and your kits. Also, I have replicated that rather awkward 3-3-4 formation that FIFPRO have decided to pick, and I firmly believe that is down to the fact that they needed to squeeze 4 attackers in, and they have put Vinicius Jr, Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland and Messi in, and that means it could leave them rather vulnerable at the back, as they have 2 banks of 3 rather than having a 4 defender setup. So the team in full, the 11 that was picked by the FIFPRO 11 players, was Thibault Courtois in goal, Ruben Dias, John Stones and Kyle Walker. You got Jude Bellingham, Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Then you got Vinicius Jr, Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland and Lionel Messi. Now, the other thing to note here is that at the start of the game, there would be some of these players that would have injuries. So the injuries have been removed just to make it that bit fairer for the FIFPRO 11. Speaking of making it fairer, the other thing that I have decided to do is, rather than just leaving them with the 11 that was picked for the actual FIFPRO World 11, I have added the other players from the squad to make sure that if injuries happen or long-term injuries, then they aren't down a player or 2. So you will also see players such as Edison, Virgil van Dijk, Rodri, Harry Kane, Eder Militao, Valverde, Benzema, so on and so on. The other thing to mention is that this team will be taking on the Premier League teams as they come. So the fact that Erling Haaland is in this team means that he should not play for Manchester City if I was to have just moved him across. However, we have gone in and we have replicated the players. So as you can see, this is Erling Haaland as he appears in the FIFPRO World 11. But if we go to Manchester City and we go into their team, you can see that all of the players that were in the FIFPRO World 11 have been duplicated, which means that they still have their version of Erling Haaland too. And it means that when the FIFPRO 11 come up against these kinds of teams, they'll still be playing against the likes of Erling Haaland, Virgil van Dijk, so on and so on, just to make it that little bit fairer. If we go into the competitions and look at the Premier League to see how they are predicted to do, so they are predicted to win the league. Now, obviously, you think that is pretty obvious. They are odds of 8-5. They have the best team in the league by miles. However, what is crazy here is that they only have 3 defenders. So they could be vulnerable to teams like Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United. Anybody who wants to get at that back 3, they could be vulnerable. So I think the odds of 8-5 are a little bit skinny when it comes to the team. So that's an introduction to the team. There's the formation they're going to play. We have odds of 8-5 to win the league. But what do you think is going to happen at this point of the video before we go forwards? Let me know in the comments section down below. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League? Will it be the FIFPRO 11? Will it be Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, somebody else? Let me know in the comment section down below. And whilst you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the other content. The structure of this video is we are going to go 10 games forward. Then we will come back, show you exactly what has been happening. Then we'll go another 10 and show you what's happened. And then we'll go to the end of the season and show you who has won the Premier League. Right then, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the future. Here we go then, we have jumped forwards. It's the 29th of October 2023, and that means the FIFPRO 11 have played the first 10 games of their Premier League campaign. If we look at the league table, we can find them sitting in second place. They are only 1 point behind Liverpool, who have 23 points. You have the FIFPRO 11 and Manchester City on 22 points. If we have a little look at the Premier League in a bit more detail, just to show you how they have got there. So, we have the FIFPRO 11, played 10, won 7, drew 1, lost twice, have a goal difference of 16, and they have 22 points. As I said, just 1 point behind Liverpool, but at this stage, Liverpool do have a game in hand, and they are yet to taste defeat. They are level on points with Manchester City with an identical record, apart from goal difference, where the FIFPRO 11s is better. And you have Arsenal just 1 point behind on 21 points. Looking at some of the stats then, in terms of goals, the original Manchester City Erling Haaland is leading the way with 10 goals in the league. Kylian Mbappe right behind him with 9. And then in the assists, you have Bernardo Silva with 7 and Vinny Jr with 6. If we have a look at the schedule to break it down how they have got on. So they kicked off their Premier League campaign with a 2-0 victory against Fulham. They had a 3-0 defeat to Liverpool, a 3-2 victory against Arsenal, before a 6-1 demolition of Forest Green in the Carabao Cup. They continued the goal-scoring rampage with an 8-1 victory against Brentford. They then lost at St James's Park to Newcastle 5-3, before a 4-0 victory against Manchester City, a 1-0 victory against Everton in the Carabao Cup, a 2-2 draw against Chelsea in the Premier League, then a 3-1 victory against Everton, a 4-1 victory against Tottenham, and a 4-2 victory against Burnley. So, as I said, that leaves them just 1 point behind at the 10-game stage. If we go into the squad and have a little look at how the goals and assists and everything is going around. So, Kylian Mbappe leads the way with 12 goals and 2 assists. You have Erling Haaland on 8 goals with 1 assist. De Bruyne 6 goals and 2 assists. If we look a little bit further down, you can see that Bernardo Silva has been the creative player in the team. He has managed to get himself 10 assists at this point. If we want to have a little look at some data hub stuff, so looking at the team defending, you see they're conceding an average of 1.7 goals per game, 1.44 expected goals against per game. They've kept 2 clean sheets out of the 10 games, and they have fouls made per game 19.3. If we go into the attacking, goals per game 3.3, non-penalty XG goals is 2.5. They have 16 shots per game. Shots on target ratio is 51.81 and pass completion ratio of 88.15 after 10 games. So everything is going in the right direction, and they are living up to the hype so far. After 10 games, 1 point behind Liverpool. What will happen when we reach the 20-game point? So we have now jumped forwards. It's the 2nd of January 2024, and we are 21 games into the Premier League campaign, and we find the FIFPRO 11 are sat top of the Premier League. They have a 1 point lead now over Liverpool, who are on 47 points. Arsenal and Manchester City are hanging tough though. They are both behind on 46. If we go into the Premier League then and have a little look at how they've been getting on. So 15 wins out of 21. They've had 3 draws and 3 losses. They have a goal difference of 40 and they're on 48 points. As I said, leading the way from Liverpool by a single point and leading both Arsenal and Manchester City by 2 points. Looking at some of the player stats then, both Erling Haalands are now firing on all cylinders. The original Manchester City Haaland is on 20 goals. Our Erling Haaland is on 17. Kylian Mbappe is on 12. In terms of average ratings, both Haalands lead the way there, with our Haaland on a 7.73 and Manchester City's Haaland on a 7.72. Assists, we have Bernardo Silva and Lionel Messi both chipping in on 13 assists. If we go into the schedule and show you exactly what has been going on. So, since we came back after the Burnley game, they would play Manchester City in the Carabao Cup and they would win 4-0. They would have a 3-1 victory against Aston Villa, a 7-2 victory against West Ham. They would follow that up with an 8-1 victory against Wolves, a 3-0 victory against Brighton, 2-0 against Bournemouth, a crazy 4-4 draw against Sheffield United, who are not one of the teams that I would expect them to drop points to. Notts Forest, they would beat 2-1. In the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, they would beat Liverpool 2-1. Crystal Palace would get a 5-2 battering. Manchester United would be beaten 2-0. And then a loss to Liverpool in December 3-2. The final game before we come back was a 2-2 draw against Fulham. So if we go into the squad, at this point, let's have a look at the leaders in the goals and the assists. So Erling Haaland is now top of the pile, 20 goals and 4 assists. Kylian Mbappe, 15 goals and 5 assists. Harry Kane has chipped in with 11 goals and 5 assists. Then you have De Bruyne, 7 and 2. Lionel Messi has now scored 7 goals and had 13 assists. Vinicius Jr, 6 goals and 10 assists. And further down, Bernardo Silva is still the creative spark. He's only scored 2 goals, but he has provided 16 assists. At this point of the season, let's have a little look at some of the Data Hub numbers. Goals conceded per game is now 1.57 and a 1.55 for the XG. They've kept only 5 clean sheets out of 21 appearances, and I think that's telling because of the formation being a 3-3-4. Looking at some of the attacking numbers, goals per game 3.48, non-XG is 2.58, shots per game 17, shots on target ratio 51.75, and an 87.98 pass completion ratio. So things are going great. They're in line to go and win the Premier League. Sat top of the table with just a 1 point advantage. We're now going to jump to the end of the season. Are they going to do it? Can they make it to the end? Let's find out. Here we go then, we have jumped to the end of the Premier League season, and the first thing that you're going to notice is that the FIFPRO XI could not win the Premier League. In fact, they wouldn't even get close to it. You can see that they would finish in 5th place, but they would finish a massive 19 points behind Manchester City, who would win the league. We'll get back to that in just a second. You can also see that they have won the FA Cup. If we go into there, we can see that they would beat Liverpool in the final 2-1. Goals from Vinicius Jr and Cristiano Ronaldo in the 92nd minute were enough for them to claim the FA Cup. They would also play in the Carabao Cup. They would get knocked out in the semi-finals of that by Chelsea. So back to the Premier League and looking at what went wrong. So we find them in 5th place, and they would play 38 games. They would win 23 of them. They would draw 5 times. They would lose 10 games. They had a goal difference of 51, and they finished on 74 points. As I said, finishing 19 points behind Manchester City. They had finished 5 points behind Liverpool. They finished 10 points behind Arsenal and 12 behind Manchester United. Looking at some of the player stats then. So the Manchester City Erling Haaland would lead the league with 27 league goals. Our version of Erling Haaland would get 24, and Darwin Núñez sneaking in there with 25. In terms of average ratings, the Manchester City Haaland would lead the way with that, although our Erling Haaland would also get the same score of a 7.59. In the assists, Messi would lead the way with 17, Bernardo Silva with 15, and Bruno Fernandes would get 15 also. If we go and look at the schedule then, and let's find out how this has broken down. So we left them at the start of January. So after the 2-2 draw against Fulham, they'll play against Rotherham in the FA Cup, where they would win 10-2. Then they would lose to Chelsea 4-2 in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg, and they would follow that up with a 2-2 draw against Arsenal. Chelsea they would beat in the return leg 3-2, but not enough to go through to the final. In the 4th round of the FA Cup, they would get just a 1-1 draw against Jude Bellingham's former team, Birmingham City. Brentford would beat them in the league. Then a 5-1 victory against Newcastle in the Premier League was followed up by a 3-0 victory against Birmingham City. Manchester City, though, would beat them 1-0 with a goal from Matheus Nunes. Chelsea would beat them 3-2 before a 3-1 victory against Everton and a 4-1 victory in the FA Cup against Wolves. Coming into the latter part of the season then, into March, a 3-1 defeat against Tottenham, a 4-1 victory against Burnley, a 5-1 victory against West Ham in the FA Cup quarter-final. They would lose 3-1 to Aston Villa in the Premier League, beat West Ham 5-1, have a 1-1 draw with Bournemouth, a 3-1 victory against Wolves, 2-1 against Brighton. You'd have a 2-0 victory against Tottenham in the FA Cup semi-final, a 4-2 loss to Sheffield United. Now that means that they have dropped points in both games against Sheffield United, a 4-4 draw and a 4-2 defeat means that they conceded 8 goals to Sheffield United. Notts Forest, they would beat 2-1. Crystal Palace, they would beat 5-1. They would lose to Manchester United on the final day of the Premier League season 2-1 before the FA Cup final, where they would go and win 2-1 against Liverpool. So a bit of a crazy end to the season, and it all kind of fell away, and I really do think it's down to that wacky 3-3-4 formation. It can only be the reason that they couldn't defend. Conceding 8 goals to Sheffield United is an absolute madness. If we go into the squad though and look at how they finished up in terms of goals and assists, so Erling Haaland would get 39 appearances, 32 goals and 9 assists. Harry Kane, 19 goals and 14 assists. Mbappe, 17 goals and 6 assists. De Bruyne, 15 goals and 13 assists. Jude Bellingham chipping in with 13 goals and 12 assists. You'd then have Messi with 11 goals and 19 assists. Vinicius Jr, 10 goals and 14 assists. But the assist king in the team would actually be Bernardo Silva. He led the way from the get-go and finishes the season on 24 assists. If we go into the data hub then, just to have a look at how those numbers changed. Conceded goals per game is 1.61. XG against is 1.51. Clean sheets is 5. Tackles won ratio 74.3. If we go into the attacking numbers and have a look at some of those. So goals per game dropped to 2.95. Non-penalty XG was 2.39. Shots per game 16.47. Shots on target ratio dropped to 48. Pass completion ratio though stayed at 87.98. So all in all, it's a disappointing end to the experiment. They were looking so good at the halfway point, it looked like they were going to go forward and win the Premier League. But they come up short. They finish only in 5th place, and it was a long, distant way behind Manchester City. So, where should we take this team next? Should we run the same experiment in Italy, Spain, France? If you want to see any of those countries tested against this FIFPRO 11, drop me a comment down below and tell me where we should take the team next. Where do you think this team would be able to dominate? Sadly, we have shown that league is not the Premier League, certainly not with a 3-3-4 formation. Right then, if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. Before you go, don't forget there are other things on this channel. We have hints, tips, tutorials, Let's Plays, Wonder Kids, a little bit of something for everybody. But for this video, I'm going to say thank you for watching. I'll see you on another video very soon.